Hey, what's up? Lightbolt Joe here. Today we are going to discuss the brand new 2020 book, came out January 2020, Race to the Sun. This is another Rick Riordan Presents book, Race to the Sun. It is written by Rebecca Roanhorse. Roanhorse? Honestly, I don't know how to pronounce her name. I don't know how to pronounce most of these Navajo terms. This is about Navajo gods and goddesses. To be honest, it's more divine beings, not so much a god goddess kind of aspect. I mean, yes, there is the sun god, but like it's more like divine people. I'm gonna put this down now. Okay, so Race to the Sun, 298 pages long, super quick, awesome book because it's so quick. It doesn't take 12 years to get to the next point of the story. It's just thing after thing after thing, and you're like, oh, okay. Like, it's a very quick read, and I'm very happy about it. So this stars, if you will, 13-year-old Najoni Begay. Najoni Begay. I might have said it wrong, but it's not even like the Joe part is Z-H-O, so it's like N-I. How do you spell her name actually? Nizhoni. Najoni Begay. Najoni means beautiful or beauty, right? In Navajo. I learned some words. Ya'ate is hello. Ya'ate. And what was my favorite? Na'ushje'i. Na'ushje'i? Na'ushje'i? I think it's Na'ushje'i. Let me skip to the glossary. Bear with me. Na'ushje'i. Na'ushje'i. I was right. Spider. So there is a Spider Woman is a main character of this, and they reference Spider Woman quite many times. So Najoni Begay has a younger brother, Marcus, Mac. She is 10 years older than him. I'm sorry, 10 months older than him. So they're twins, but they're not twins. Najoni's best friend's name is Davery? Oh, why can't I ever remember these names? Davery. Okay. Davery is half Native, half African American. Najoni and Mac are Navajo, but they have like, they go over their ancestral clans a lot of the times. So this book shows culture. Rebecca did an incredible job showing the culture. She herself is half Native, half African American, but her husband is from Navajo tribes, and she studied Navajo law for quite some time, and their daughter is raised Navajo. Does that make sense? That sounds right? Okay. So the story is Najoni is a monster slayer, and she doesn't know she's a monster slayer until her father is kidnapped by a monster, and her stuffed toad, lizard, they call him a toad and they call him a lizard, so a spiked toad, spiked lizard, whatever. Mr. Nazi, they call him. He comes about and he explains that she's from a long line of monster slayers and that it is now her turn to be the next monster slayer. Basically, it's very much a Buffy the Vampire Slayer kind of a thing. Now, they mentioned hero twins, and you're like, wait a minute, I know about hero twins from the Stormrunner series, right? But that's Maya Aztec mythology. This now we have Native Navajo mythology. So it's neat seeing the different myths have the same similar stories. This involves a rainbow road as a mode of transportation. We know a rainbow road from the North's mythology, right? It's just really cool seeing the similarities between the mythologies. That was a good way of saying it. There's a lot of syllables in that. But yeah, so Najoni, Mac, and Davery leave school after some bullying stuff, after she realizes that their father was kidnapped. Their mom disappeared when she was 2, and Mac was like 1-ish. And they don't know why, so it's always been their dad, raising them, having a hard time raising them. So the dad's kidnapped by this monster, Mr. Charles. Mr. Charles has 2 backup, Mr. Rock and Miss something. I forgot the Miss Bird, I think. I forget. So they get on a train. The train then takes them up a mountain to meet Crystal Rock Boy. Crystal Rock Boy is the guardian of a mountain, and then there's heralds. So the heralds are these giant birds. There's 4 mountains with 4 guardians with 4 heralds. So the 4 mountains are for the 4 points of the compass, basically, north, south, east, and west. So it's really neat seeing that earthly connection of the guardians and the heralds. And the guardians and heralds are trying to protect the lands, protect the world from the monsters that are inevitably going to be coming again. because the monster slayers have not defeated all of them, kind of a thing. So the quest is for Najoni, Mac, and Davery to go to the Glistening World to meet the Spider-Woman, to get a map, to cross the Rainbow Road, to get to the House of the Sun, to get weapons, to then fight the monsters. Okay? Did you follow that? All right. So they eventually get into the Glistening World without realizing they got to the Glistening World, meet up with Spider-Woman, Naushjei, woman. I forget how the woman part is. But they say their Yaate, hello, and do their thing, right? They go over weaving, they go over storytelling. And again, it's cool seeing the spider god, the spider goddess, is in charge of storytelling, is in charge of weaving the stories, right? So we just went over Tristan Strong, and the Anansi god is the spider god of stories, right? Because he weaves the stories, African mythology. And now you got the Navajo diviness of the Spider Woman, the Naushjei woman, is the Spider Woman who weaves the stories, right? So again, similar mythologies coming together. I love it. I love it. I love these Rick Riordan imprints attached to Rick Riordan's books. Incredible. Incredible. Okay. So, turns out they don't actually need a map because they've had a song lyric. They had a song given to them by a map from a diviness at the train station before they even boarded. So they've been following the instructions on the song, kind of. They have 4 trials they have to go through. 3 trials? 4 trials. There's the Singing Rocks. There's the... I think it's 3. There's the Sharp Reed things, the Thorn things, which was the prom, and then prom of thorns, and then the 4, and then the Seether of sand or something like that, which was like mirrors and like really creepy. So then while Matt gets lost in the rock one, Davery gets lost in the mirror one, but in the mirror one, Najoni sees like her mom's reflection in a mirror and gets taken to that memory of her mom, and it was of the mom being a monster slayer, leaving the family when she was 2 to fight a monster, but the mom got lost. So everyone who's gotten lost in the process of slaying monsters, it winds up in the Lost and Found, which is attached to the House of the Sun. So eventually Najoni gets to the House of the Sun by herself, talks to these bear guardians, basically. Mr. Yazzie the Toad winds up back there, because he got lost at some point too. She discusses passing the trials with the sun god, whose name I can't remember nor pronounce. I apologize. So eventually, they kind of like worm their way to the Lost and Found. Najoni realizes that she has to give up the dream of being a hero in order to save everyone. So all of the encased people, Mac, Davery, their mom, other relatives from the past, like a great Uncle Eugene was in there, melt away from Amber, crack away from Amber after she gives up a dream of being a sacrifices the dream of being a hero that she always wanted, the fame, the notoriety, the Instagram following, the YouTube notoriety, things of that nature. They all get items of weaponry from the sun god. They then fly on the giant heralds with the guardians, which is a pretty neat scene, to face off against Mr. Charles and his demon buzzard things. They fight. Najoni gets this lightning bolts bow and arrow, which is a badass ordeal that she's standing on her herald and incredible. And then at one point, the last arrow, because she only gets 4 lightning arrows, because she's a herald of lightning, and because she's a monster slayer, and her brother Mac is a son of water, something like that, follower of water. He can control water, so the sun god gives him a little tiny vial of lightning water. Liquid lightning, that's what they call it. Incredible. So Mac is throwing his liquid lightning, and Najoni's throwing her, shooting her, lightning bolts, and their mom has got this 3-foot sword, and she's slamming away with her lightning sword, and all in the sky, all on these giant birds, facing off these demon buzzards. Incredible. So Mac's last Najoni's last lightning bolt gets caught by Mr. Charles, the monster leader, who then throws it back at her, hits her in the chest. She goes crashing down, but it turns out she didn't die from it. It absorbed into her, and she had the lightning powers, and she blasts Mr. Charles, and then they find their dad because their grandmother comes back, and it's this whole beautiful reunion of the entire family, and they all go back to the grandmothers for food and laughter and merriment and storytelling, and it leads perfectly into another book. Whether there will be one or not, I don't know, but I want there to be. You could tell how jazzed I am by this book. This was incredible. I learned so much, and this is why I love mythology books. I love learning culture that I am not familiar with. This is another prime example of Rick Riordan's imprint because it is great having all of this information. I love this book. I'm going to cheesily smile with this book and point at it. Okay, right? Cheesy, I know. But Najoni is a great character. And it's a thin book, right? 298 pages long, right? But why Najoni? Oh, here's Mr. Yazzie. There you go. Right there, the spiked toad. Slash a lizard. They call him a spiked toad and a spiked lizard, but he's a reptile. Okay. Najoni is a great character because she's real. She gets mad. They talk about her anger management programs. She gets upset. She cries constantly, but appropriately. Not a matter of not inappropriate. You know, like in Vampire Diaries, when the main girl, whose name I can't remember, Nina Dobrev plays the character, she just cries constantly for no reason. It's like, oh, there's a lull in the story, let's have Nina cry. It doesn't make sense. Nina's a great actress, but her character made absolutely no sense why she had to cry every 5 seconds. Najoni crying appropriately because she thinks she lost her brother, because she lost her mother, because her father was kidnapped. All of these emotions are coming about. And to have Davery kind of like be that voice of reason for her to settle her down, it worked. It showed real emotions that kids can have, that kids have. So it's important for these Rick Riordan Presents books to show kids of different cultures being presented appropriately, because I don't know that much about Native American cultures, right? All I know is a vivid image of the Trail of Tears, which is very basically brushed upon in school. But you don't really talk about things. You don't talk about the fact that documented history, over 100 million Native Americans were slaughtered by colonists when they discovered the New World. You don't learn that in your history books in school. Why are we always taught about the World War II exterminations, the Nazis killed 30 million Jews or something like that. During that same time period, 80 million, Chinese people were killed by the Japanese? And over 100 million Native Americans were killed on American soil from the colonists? Why don't we talk about that? Why don't we talk about the 80 million plus people, Chinese people that were killed during World War II, aside from the people that died in the Holocaust? Why is that not represented? It's because we learn white history in school. Obviously, the only thing that the white history books are going to teach you is the white people that died in mass amounts. We're not going to learn about the redskin folk and I know that's not a proper word to say now. I feel like I'll retract that statement. We don't learn about the native folk in America. We only learn about the white folk in Europe, and we don't learn about the native folk in Southeast Asia. I don't know what words to use right now. It's kind of weird. We learn about the European folk, we don't learn about the Chinese folk, and we don't learn about the Native American folk. Okay, I think that's better. Yeah, I have to retract that redskin statement because we don't say that word anymore. That's a bad word. Bad word. This is why the Washington Redskins are rebranding, because it is not appropriate and the time is done. Time's up. Okay, I think we covered everything. My point is, I did not know Native American history to the extent, and there's a lot of different tribes and there's a lot of different cultures within Native American history, right? I'm from Long Island. There's a lot of my towns are named after, tribes. I only know certain things about the Cherokee only because of Piper McLean's character in Rick Riordan's books, and I didn't really know that much about Navajo aside from, special prints and stuff like this. I'm clearly wearing this specifically to review this book. Shout out to Mindy Kaling's Never Have I Ever on Netflix, because Darren Barnett, who plays Paxton Hall Yoshida, wears this exact hoodie, and I felt clearly the native print is clearly appropriate for this review. So there we go. I'm all in proper garb, if you will, for that of a white boy with my limited resources. Does that make sense? Sure. So, Race to the Sun by Rebecca Rowanhorse. Incredible book. I learned so much, and you will too. give it a read. Mucho mahalo.